Instrument Air System Part 10. In this part, instrument air compressor control schemes are being discussed. This is a typical installation of an instrument air compressor and accessories. Screw rotary type compressor. The screw rotary type instrument air compressor is usually used in the offshore applications. This type is used due to its large flow capacity and relatively low discharge pressure, but still it is sufficient to supply instrument air or compressed air for any other application. Control schemes for instrument air compressor. Since the instrument air compressor is not required to supply a constant airflow, it needs some control scheme for its efficient working. The schemes are: first, on-off or start-stop control; second, load-unload control; and third, variable speed control. Request: it is hoped that this lecture is going to be useful to you. Please press like. Please subscribe. On-off or start-stop control. This is a basic instrument air compressor control scheme. This control scheme just simply turns off the compressor when the pressure in the instrument air network reaches a certain high level, and turns on when the pressure goes down below the set pressure. This control scheme is effectively used when the continuous demand of the compressed air is less than 50% of the compressor capacity. This type of control scheme is usually limited to a small compressor size below 10 horsepower. The disadvantage of this control scheme is that too frequent start-stop cycle shall make a bearing part worn down. Load-unload control. The load-unload control scheme is utilizing a load-unload valve. When the pressure in the instrument air network reaches a high set point, the load-unload valve shall close, but certain small intake air volume shall go through a flow restriction to the compressor. At the same time, the discharge of the compressor shall bleed out to the atmosphere through a vent valve. In this way, the compressor shall operate on atmospheric pressure only, and its power consumption shall be reduced. This control scheme is also accompanied with a timer, so that after several minutes of the compressor unloading, the compressor motor shall also be switched off by the controller. This is the most common control scheme for a large number of instrument air users in the process industry. By applying this control scheme, instead of having a frequent start-stop the compressor shall have an unload condition for a certain time, maybe 30 minutes or more. If after a certain time the compressor still unloads, then the control scheme shall switch off the compressor motor. Variable speed control. The variable speed control scheme is utilizing a variable frequency drive as a motor controller. When the load in the instrument air network is low, then a pressure transmitter will indicate and send feedback to the variable frequency drive VFD. The VFD will adjust the motor speed to adjust the compression speed. Thus, the compressor capacity will go down following the low demand on the instrument air network. When the load is high, the pressure in the instrument air network will be down and the pressure transmitter will send feedback signal to the VFD. Once again, the VFD will adjust the motor speed so that the compressor capacity is increased. This control scheme is the most precise control of the compressor, but having an initial high installation cost. Which control scheme must we use? For a large central processing platform or a refinery plant application, the load-unload control scheme can be selected as a preliminary control scheme as a default. The on-off control scheme can be selected for a small compressor less than 10 horsepower, while the variable speed control scheme can be selected after doing some cost comparison with the load-unload control scheme. Next lecture. The next lecture shall be Instrument Air System Part 11. In this lecture, some other important component or aspect of the instrument air system shall be discussed. Request. It is hoped that this lecture is useful to you. Please press like. Please subscribe.